Hi, everyone. Today we are going to be looking at the last of the Carroll's Distillery's batch of rums. We've already done the high ester, of course, and then we did the Sanderling, which is also called the Sandpiper, and we did the white rum that was unaged or the spirit drink, And today we're going to be looking at the Cormorant. Now, the Cormorant is, as you can see from the coloring, a dark rum, but that has been affected by caramel coloring E150. I would assume. I didn't ask, and it isn't listed, but that's kind of like an industry standard, so I'm going to go with that for now. It is also a 1 year aged rum, just like the Sanderling was, and although a bit more. Actually, it's closer to 2 years in some cases, right? Because it is actually a blend of stuff that's been aged a bit more than 1 year and a bit less than 2 years, or just about 2 years. The batch blends tend to change, so I can't put because I don't know which batch this is. I can't say whether what's on the website is what's applicable to this one. I bought this about 6 months ago, so who knows? It's been issued at 40%, right? Yep, 40%. As my memory isn't completely faulty yet, and essentially, I think this is just a slightly bit more aged version of the pale yellow Sanderling that we looked at before. Um, in this particular instance, it's been twice distilled through their pot still. So there is all the rums have been made comes off of a pot still. They're trying to make a medium-bodied mixing rum, of course, and the question really is whether it succeeds at that, because that caramel and that little bit of extra aging is definitely going to give you something different. And for the avoidance of doubt, it's ex-bourbon barrels, 200 liter kind of thing. So yeah, same as before. All right. When I first tried this at 6 o'clock in the morning, I really wasn't that impressed with it. I thought that the unaged and the lightly aged whites and pale yellow ones were better. But now that it's been sitting down for a few hours and I've done a few other things and I've come back to it, the nose is actually quite a bit better than it was when I started. Yeah, but the taste, what I'm sensing is pretty much the same thing. It's just the intensity to some extent has changed, perhaps because I've had my hat on this thing for 2 hours and it got a chance to do that, right? But what you get is a lot of, you get some colas, you get some licorice, a bit of fruit, citrus, brown sugar. It's in here, the molasses really starts to pop a little bit more than in a way it didn't with the other two. There's a little bit of coffee. There's a little bit of bitter chocolate, which is really quite nice. So initially, I kind of ran this through at about 81 points, but I think it's gotten better since then, and that's really quite unusual for me because most of the time, you get a few additional notes, but the overall profile doesn't really change that much. Hmm. That's a very easy sipping rum that won't hurt you. It also is actually quite tasty. Simple, but tasty. And what I'm getting out of it is, again, the colas, again, some of the fruit, a little bit of licorice, there's a little bit of chewing gum, a little bit of sweetness here. Um, I don't know how much of that is due to the caramel and how much is due to the aging, but you are getting some cumin, some cinnamon, and some leather smoke kind of thing. And you are definitely getting a little bit of vanilla from all that, whether it's 1 year or 2 years of aging that the blend is put together. But it is a very nice rum. And about the only thing I should say about it is that it really should be stronger because this could be something, it's close enough without actually being to a Demerara rum that you wouldn't feel that it's a bad piece of work on that basis. For example, the Young's Old Sam, which we've looked at before, which is made in Newfoundland from Guyanese stocks, is primarily Enmore distillate or whatever it is that they're using this day now. But this is actually not too far away from that. You can actually taste some of that same sort of those woody licorice notes, some of that sap, and the bitter chocolate that characterizes the wooden stills. So I don't know whether Matthew made, through his experimentation, I don't know whether he made this with that in mind, but think of it as a low rent El Dorado, something like a 3 year old perhaps, aged a little bit, given a little bit of oomph, a little bit of wooden still action going on there. Strangely enough, it really does channel that. The closest other example I could come to this is probably one of the younger Durleys, but it's Demerara that I think about when I come back to this. But whatever I might say about that confluence of taste profiles, I think that it kind of stands by itself as a rum that, even though it's 40%, and even though I think that's just too weak, and I think it should be oomphed up a bit more for the general audience, I don't think you'll be disappointed if you try it by itself. And again, as with all such recommendations, I would urge caution, and I would ask that if you could possibly do so, to try it first before you buy it. But this thing is less than $40, and you can order it from the distillery and he will mail it to you. And I mean, $40 for this, tasting this, that will get something like an 83, 84 point score. Are you kidding me? Yeah, that's absolutely worth it. Go for it, mate. And if anybody south of 49 ever gets a chance to head over to, well, my part of the water, by all means, drop in. I will share my bottles with you, and you can kind of, like, if you don't get it by yourself, well, we can work something out, right? In the meantime, I just want to say thanks to Matthew Carroll for producing something so interesting. There are other distilleries, primarily in the Maritimes, that I have to get to. But it's nice to know that there are other distilleries out there that don't just shred shit like I get here in Alberta with Highwood Distillers and the rest of them, that just make cheap plunk for the masses. I mean, you can tell that somebody's paying attention here and wants to do better and puts his individuality and his personal stamp on the products that he makes. And for that reason, I think this is really worth your time. Thanks very much.